I can still recall the day with crystal clarity. It was the day I received an unexpected wedding invitation from a junior colleague, a day that would change everything for both of us. My name is Darren, and I'm 34 years old. My life has been shaped by hard work, determination, and a commitment to integrity, values that some might never understand. The wedding itself was a grand affair, a parade of wealth and status. I had only attended out of obligation. After all, this colleague, Jordan, had once been a friend. But what should have been a celebration quickly spiraled into something darker. The moment the bride, Camille, stood up, her voice loud and dripping with arrogance, I knew something was off. People with no education and no money should distance themselves from my husband, she said, scanning the room until her eyes found me, making sure her message hit its mark. The laughter and clinking of champagne glasses abruptly ceased, replaced by awkward silence. Jordan, the groom, stood beside her, smirking instead of defending me. He even added to the insult. My heart sank. It was as though the floor had opened up beneath me. Everyone stared, their silent judgment hanging thick in the air. But I swallowed my pride and stood tall. In that moment, I made a decision. I would cut them out of my life, but not before making sure they regretted judging me based on something as trivial as my background. They would soon learn that true worth isn't measured by degrees or bank accounts, but by the strength of one's character. Let's rewind a bit. I grew up in an average family, not rich, not poor, just ordinary. My parents, both college graduates, had big dreams for me, but I had different plans. While my friends dreamed of colleges, I dreamed of making something of myself in the real world. I dropped out of school early, much to my parents' confusion, but eventually they understood. I worked one tough job after another, gaining skills and experiences that no classroom could ever offer. Now, I'm a service department manager at a major machinery company. It's not glamorous, but it's honest work, and I've earned respect through my dedication. Fast forward to a few years ago. It was just another day at work when I got a call. Another complaint to handle, another client to smooth over. It was exhausting, but I took pride in fixing problems. After a long day, I returned to the office, only to see Jordan, the same guy who would later humiliate me at his wedding, chatting with someone from sales. Jordan had once been a respectful junior colleague, someone I'd mentored. But everything changed when he found out I'd dropped out of school. He started looking down on me, convinced that his degree made him superior. Got a minute, Jordan? I called out. There was a complaint from one of your clients. I had to handle it myself. Tomorrow, we're both going to apologize to them. Jordan barely cared. I had plans, he shrugged. Maybe they should stop bossing me around. His arrogance had become unbearable. He blamed everyone but himself for his failings. The worst part, he actually believed that my success made me bitter because I didn't have the degree flaunted at every chance. Things went downhill from there. I reported his incompetence to our manager, and his resentment towards me only grew. One night, while I was out of town on a work trip, I bumped into Jordan and his girlfriend, Camille. They invited me to dinner, but it was clear Jordan wanted to show off. He bragged about his education, about Camille's wealthy family. But when Jordan stepped away, Camille turned to me with a sneer. You think your position makes you important, she hissed. Stop holding Jordan back. He deserves better. It became clear that Jordan had been bad-mouthing me to her, painting me as the obstacle to his success. Months passed, and I received another unexpected surprise. Despite not being invited to Jordan's wedding, I was asked to attend in place of my manager, who had a last-minute emergency. I reluctantly agreed, thinking it would be nothing more than an awkward few hours. When I arrived, Jordan's smugness was palpable. You're out of place here, he sneered. We're all highly educated, working in top-tier companies. A dropout like you doesn't belong. But what Jordan didn't know was that his time was running out. As I stepped up to the microphone for the speech, the room fell silent. Congratulations to Jordan, I began, a top-tier graduate who's truly excelled at accumulating complaints from clients. Your arrogance is something to behold. Gasps echoed through the hall. Before Jordan could react, the doors swung open, and in walked our manager, and the CEO of the client company Jordan had wronged. As it turned out, Jordan had lied to both Camille and his employer. He had filed false business claims to sneak away with Camille, and now the truth had come to light. In front of everyone, Camille's secrets were exposed too. She had hidden her past, and now her lies had caught up with her. The wedding was called off in a whirlwind of chaos. Jordan was fired, and both he and Camille faced serious consequences for their deceit. As for me, I walked away, knowing that integrity always wins in the end. As the chaos at the wedding unfolded, I watched from the sidelines, quietly observing the disaster that Jordan and Camille had brought upon themselves. There was no satisfaction in it, no gloating over their downfall, but rather a sense of finality. The chapter of my life that involved them was closing, and I was ready to move on. The wedding venue, once filled with grandeur and opulence, was now filled with whispers and scandal. Guests were hurriedly leaving, while Jordan stood there, disheveled and defeated. Camille, pale and shaken, had stormed out after her confrontation with the client CEO, unable to face the consequences of her lies. The once celebratory atmosphere had turned bitter and cold. As I made my way towards the exit, Jordan called after me. "Darren, wait." His voice, once filled with arrogance, was now desperate. He caught up to me at the door, his face a mix of shame and regret. I didn't know it would end like this. I didn't mean for it to go this far." I paused, turning to face him. For a moment, I saw a glimpse of the old Jordan, the eager, respectful young man I once mentored. But that version of him had long since disappeared, consumed by his own arrogance and misguided sense of superiority. "Jordan," I said calmly, "the decisions you made led you here. You chose to judge people based on status and education. You let your ego destroy your career and your relationships. This is just the consequence of your actions." He looked down, unable to meet my gaze. "I didn't think it would matter," he muttered. I thought having a degree, having connections, would be enough. I never realized how much I relied on you to clean up my messes until it was too late." I shook my head, feeling a pang of sympathy for him. Degrees and connections don't define who you are, Jordan. What matters is how you treat people, how you handle your responsibilities, and whether you're willing to put in the effort. I tried to teach you that, but you weren't interested in listening. There was silence between us for a moment. I could see the weight of his mistakes finally sinking in. Jordan was no longer the smug, entitled man he had been. He was just lost. "I don't know what to do now," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. I thought for a moment. Despite everything, I wasn't a person who enjoyed seeing others suffer. You've got to own up to what you've done, Jordan. Face the consequences, learn from them. It's going to be tough, but maybe it'll give you a chance to rebuild. He nodded slowly, still not fully grasping the road ahead of him. I didn't linger. There was nothing more to say. I left the wedding, knowing that Jordan's journey from here would be difficult, but necessary. A few months passed, and I returned to my usual routine. Work kept me busy, and I had no reason to think about Jordan or Camille. They had disappeared from my life as abruptly as they had entered it. But one day, while overseeing a new machinery installation at a client site, I received an unexpected email. It was from Jordan. Hesitant, I opened it, unsure of what to expect. "Darren, I don't know if you'll even read this, but I wanted to reach out. I've been thinking a lot about what you said at the wedding, about integrity and hard work. You were right. I've been living in a bubble, thinking that my degree and my connections would carry me through life, but they haven't. After the wedding, I lost everything. My job, my relationship with Camille. Even some of my so-called friends distanced themselves. It's been humbling, to say the least, but I'm trying to turn things around. I've been volunteering with a local community center, helping people who are struggling to find work. It's not glamorous, and it doesn't pay, but it's honest, and it's teaching me a lot about what really matters. I don't expect us to ever be friends again, but I wanted to say thank you. You stood up for yourself when I treated you poorly, and you showed me that success isn't about where you come from or what degree you have. It's about character. I hope you're doing well. Jordan. I stared at the email for a long time, processing his words. It was rare for people to truly change, but maybe Jordan had started to. Maybe he had finally begun to understand the lessons he had once scoffed at. I wasn't ready to forgive him entirely, but I appreciated the honesty in his message. I didn't reply immediately. Instead, I let it sit with me for a while. Some time later, I sent a brief response. Good luck, Jordan. I hope you find what you're looking for. As the years passed, I continued to focus on my work, rising steadily in my company. I had built a life I was proud of, one that wasn't defined by the opinions of others or superficial measures of success. My journey hadn't been easy, but it had been mine, shaped by my own choices, values, and perseverance. I never heard from Camille again, but every now and then, I would receive updates from Jordan. He had found a new job, not in the corporate world, but as a teacher at a vocational school. He was helping others who, like him, had once believed that formal education was the only path to success. His experiences had given him a new perspective, and in a strange way, I was glad he had found his calling. The chapter of my life that involved Jordan and Camille had closed, but it had taught me something important. People can change. It's not easy, and it doesn't happen overnight, but sometimes, when faced with the consequences of their actions, they can grow. And that, in the end, is what matters most. As for me, I would continue to live by the principles that had guided me all along: honesty, hard work, and integrity, knowing that they would lead me to a future I could be proud of, no matter the challenges that came my way.